welcome to Michael's Odyssey, Episode 3, Moral Dilemmas. I can't lie, I fucking love moral dilemmas. I love moral dilemmas. I've always been fascinated with them for as long as I can remember. I believe the first time I came across the concept of moral dilemmas was when I was presented with a moral dilemma exercise, a moral dilemma test. As a young teenager, ever since then I found them very interesting. Well, I mean, not just to satisfy my sadomasochistic tendencies, but also as a very interesting teacher. Very interesting feature that I was able to add on growing up. In my mind's gustatory, right? If my mind was to have taste, it's in my mind's taste buds. I always envisioned moral dilemma. It tastes like spiced gingerbread cake. Don't freak out. I have a broken mind. I have a system where I attach memories to music and either build a house in my head where I store memories and feelings, or have imagined taste to sound or to things that I've always found just particularly interesting. And in the case of moral dilemmas, they taste like spiced, with nutmeg, of course, spiced gingerbread cake. Yeah, I think I'm gonna edit that out of the main edit, the main cut, I guess. Moral dilemmas represent a stark reminder of the complexity of life, of choice and of judgment. I find them truly fascinating. They are humbling, they are telling, they are trying. It has all the wits about it to put your most valued principles and morals and ethics to the test. It could play the role of a teacher if you paid attention to it, or could be the onset of early dementia if you allowed it. To define moral dilemma, I'm going to define morality first, and then dilemmas, and then we make a sandwich out of it. Morality is well known. Morality can be defined as a set of beliefs and convictions about right and wrong. This concept applies to relationships, to our interactions basically towards each other, to people and to animals. We typically adopt convictions and moral beliefs through our social interactions. Well, I've always been fascinated also with the concept of just morality. It deserves a series on its own. I will go back and touch upon it later. It's such a beautiful concept. Because we are tested every day. Every day is a moral test. Every day manifests extraordinary situations in which our morality is tested. How we act is the true answer. It's the true determinant as to whether or not we are living in accordance with our moral codes, with our moral convictions. Now, a dilemma is a situation in which two difficult choices are to be made. That's it. Now, when you put the two together, it makes for one hell of a sandwich. with all the trimmings, amazing bread, baked, home baked, of course, condiments and cheese. When you put these two together, it is a time bomb. A moral dilemma is basically, situations in which difficult choices have to be made. But now we add a key element to it. Either of the choices or causes of action will entail for you to disobey, infringe, or to go beyond the limits of your moral principle. It is a paradox in decision making between two possible moral imperatives, or two possible moral imperatives. Yeah, both actually. It's a paradox in decision making between two possible moral, imperatives, and two possible moral imperatives in which, neither of which is unambiguously acceptable or, preferable. Moral dilemma is a situation in which you, as the moral agent, as the decision maker, has to give priority to one moral value over another. Now, this is where the fun begins. There are two main types of moral dilemmas. There are real moral dilemmas. There are false moral dilemmas. In a real dilemmatic situation, the tension is between moral values and duties that are more or less equal. So the choice is usually in a real dilemma, it's between a wrong and another roughly equal wrong choice. Now, false dilemmas, on the other hand, are instances in which the decision maker has a clear indication of what ought to be done and has a moral duty to act in one way, but external factors tempt or pressure him to act in another way. In a false dilemma, the choice is actually between right and wrong. You see the differences between false and between right and wrong, and between wrong and equally wrong. Now, this happens in all aspects of our lives, in our personal, interpersonal life, in our professional work life. Moral dilemmas are prevalent in all aspects of our lives, our careers, in personal choices we make. They occur in public and private sector, in organizations of all sizes. Any decision maker can encounter them, whether at an executive level or much below. Governments are a fine example of it. Governments, for example, choosing to aid a company, choosing the aid of a private company to achieve objectives, and in return has to scratch the private company's back. And the choice being made would be slightly detrimental, let's say, to the environment, or let's say changes in labor laws, and etc., etc. Now, although there are a myriad potential moral dilemmas, they all tend to fall into common types of dilemmas. Okay. Now, moral dilemmas are not just as simple as making one choice over another. There are several types of moral dilemmas. Just imagine scenarios and probabilities and happenstances. Let's touch upon some of the common ones, the most common moral dilemmas, to give you a take on some of the complexities around this. We'll touch on some of the common ones. We'll touch on is one called self-imposed and world-imposed dilemmas. That's a very interesting one. Another one is epistemic and ontological dilemmas. These are very interesting. And then we have obligatory and prohibitory, dilemmas. Let's start with epistemic. Epistemic moral dilemmas, this involves situations wherein the moral agent does not know which conflicting option is morally right or wrong. You understand that? You, the moral agent, is unright on which is right or wrong. The moral agent hardly knows which of the conflicting moral requirements takes precedence. So for this type of moral dilemmas, you would need to have a lot of data to make a decision, to make a definitive decision on which moral stance you would take. So the man is not, so whoever is the moral agent, the man or the woman, they're unaware of which one is more morally right, based on the fact they do not have all the data. So they can make a choice though. But they can make a choice. You can always still make a choice. You will still have to make a choice. So, for example, let's say if I've given a commitment to my wife that I will be home early, okay? My wife is sick, no problem. But I told my wife I'm going to be home early. On the way home, I see a man clutch his chest and falls to the ground. And he needs to be taken to a hospital. Now the question now is, where does my actual duty lie? I can't deny that there are conflicting duties, more requirements here, because now we want to know more. We want to have more knowledge about the situation. What is so important in him being home early? Does he have to be home early? What if I was to add variables in? The wife is sick, she needs medication every hour, and there might or might not be someone to help her, but you have to be there. Okay? But on the way home, you've seen this man clutch his chest, fall to the ground. If you do not help him go to the hospital, he dies. So you see, more data makes it more complicated. It needs fuller knowledge of the situation. That is why we have the term epistemic in the moral, in that name, epistemic. It needs more knowledge. Now, the mirror concept to that is ontological moral dilemmas, which involves situations wherein we have two or more moral requirements. Which we have two or more moral requirements, which neither of which actually are in conflict with each other. The point here is that neither of these moral requirements is stronger than the other. Hence, you, the moral agent, can hardly choose between the conflicting moral requirements. So, for a fine example of this would be, you're a doctor. You're attending to the needs of two wounded victims of a car accident. Unfortunately, both of them urgently need blood transfusion. However, only one bag is available at the moment. So to whom shall you, the doctor, administer the blood transfusion? For sure, you cannot tell whether administering a blood transfusion to patient A is more morally superior than doing it to patient B, and vice versa. So this is a very interesting one if you think about it deeply. One of my favorite ones, the imposed moral dilemmas, self-imposed moral dilemmas. These are caused when us, the moral agents, agree to something. This is caused by the moral agent's wrongdoings. Okay, it could be a promise made earlier that has to be fulfilled. A fine example of this would be the story of John the Baptist. I am sure you remember the story of John the Baptist. For those who don't remember the story of John the Baptist, I would just vaguely run through it. John the Baptist was a prisoner of a man called King Herod. King Herod's daughter was having a birthday. She entertained Herod and his guests in such a fantastic way. Herod obviously loves his daughter very much. So this is your birthday. You have also, entertained me and my guests very well. What do you want? How can I gift you? And he loved his daughter a great deal. The daughter went to the mom. The mom whispered into the daughter's ear. She runs back to the dad and says, "You remember the prisoner you have locked up? I want his head on a platter." I know. Lovely child. So now Harold is caught between a vow he's made to his daughter, a moral dilemma of not fulfilling that promise, and at the same time, he has to also go through the moral dilemma of cutting somebody's head off. Double obligations. Another good example would be politicians doing their campaign. When they're running for a position of governor. In Nigeria, we are specialists in this kind of people. So, you're doing your campaign. You make promises. Yes, we're gonna protect the land of the indigenous people. We're gonna protect your waterway, your heritage, blah blah blah. And then on the other hand, he has to obviously seek financial support from, let's say, oil companies, mining companies, extraction companies. Now imagine David wins the election. Now he's faced with the dilemma of fulfilling the promises he has made to both the indigenous people and the mining or extracting an oil and gas or energy company to destroy their forest or their land. Now, indeed, through his own actions, through her own actions, the moral agents have created a situation in which it is impossible for them to be discharged from both obligations. So this is a brilliant one. I love this one. It's a painful one. This one is because this one is caused by you. This is your fault. So it will require you to dig deep into your moral principle well. Moral dilemma is just, if you focus and you pay attention to it, it teaches you to ponder seriously on what your moral or ethical stances are. What are your doctrines? What do you believe in? That's why I find them fascinating. How about I give you a couple of, let's go through some moral exercises. That should be interesting. And after I've gone through several, I will choose one and tell you what my actual personal take on it is. I have one called concentration camp. So imagine this. You're an inmate in a concentration camp. Okay? A sadistic guard is about to hang your son who tried to escape. Okay? Now he puts the noose over your son's neck, over your son's head, tightens it at the neck, and then asks you to, kick the chair from under your son's leg, effectively killing your son. Now he says if you do not do that, he will kill your son and then turn around and kill one of the innocent inmates there. Now you have no doubt in his mind that he will do this. The question is, what would you do? What about, I'll give you another one, Robin Hood. It's a good one. You witness a crime. A man robbed a bank, but instead of keeping the money for himself, the man donates it all to a poor orphanage. And now this poor orphanage can afford to feed, clothe, and care for the children. You know who committed the crime. But if you go to the authorities with the information, there is a good chance the money will be returned back to the bank, which is insured anyways. Thus, leaving a lot of kids in need. What do? Do you turn to the robber? Do you turn the robber in to the authorities? Or do you say nothing since the money has gone to a good cause? A good one. Let's think of another. Okay, I have a good one. This one is called the drug bust. This one is a hard one. Now, you're on holiday in a country that has zero tolerance for drugs, death penalty immediately. So let's say somewhere in Indonesia. Okay. Now, you and your son is 18 years old. He just turned 18. You guys are flying in for his 18th birthday. You guys want to spend it in that country. You go to the beach. You have a good time. Now, after having fun, your son is ready to board a plane when an armed officer comes around with a sniffer dog. You have all the bags in the trolley, and the sniffer dog sniffs your bag, your wife's bag, passes over it, and then goes to your son's bag and begins to be a bit more active. Now, you look over to your son, and you notice your son is looking nervous. Now, you know your son has smoked a little, let's say, for the sake of argument, marijuana. Okay? And you want him to have a good time. You know he, you kind of knew, and you closed your eyes into it. But generally, he's a good kid. He's a great son. He's fantastic in every way. But you certainly didn't think he'll actually be stupid enough to bring it, back with him on the plane. So at first, obviously, you're mad at him. And second, you start planning in your head, the hell are you going to do? And then you realize, oh shit, in this country, they have a zero tolerance policy on drugs. Meaning your son will be jailed for life, minimum. And obviously, much worse, he will be executed. Now, you look at your wife and you realize she has also come to the same conclusion. And that she has gone pale with fear. The armed officer accompanying the dog is beginning to look more stern with every sniff. He takes a look into the bag and voila, marijuana. Now the officer looks at you and asks, whose bag is this? You realize you have to answer, but the answer won't be easy, obviously. From the corner of your eye, you can see your wife, and she's about to step forward and claim that, hey, it's mine to protect your son. What would you do? I love this. You know what? It looks like we're having fun. Let's see how well I can hurt you guys. Let's go with another one. Oh, this is a beautiful one. Check this out. So your family is vacationing alone on an island. You guys got money. So your daughter and your niece, this is your only daughter, obviously the apple of your eye, and your niece, obviously you love her to death, your only niece. Both of them are 7 years old, bestest friends in the whole wide world, eager to get into the water. You're on your phone, you're like, whatever, don't go too close, have a little fun. Waves come in, poof, pull them in, and then you hear them scream in distress, and then you find both of them caught in a strong current. Now, you are the only person on that island who is strong enough to save them because the others have gone for supplies, let's say. You are the only one now strong enough to save them, but you can only save one at a time. Keep this in mind. Your niece, okay, can't swim. She can't swim for shit. She's a poor swimmer and will likely not make it. She will drown. That is guaranteed 100%. Your daughter, on the other hand, is a stronger swimmer, like you. But in this scenario, she has only a 50% chance of holding on long enough for you to save your niece, drop her on the shore, swim back out. 50%. Now, what would you do? Who would you save first? Would you save your daughter first, knowing full well that your niece will probably die? Okay, but don't forget you can't bear to lose a child. Or you save your niece and you hope your daughter can hold on long enough for you to come back to her. Yeah. I don't know why I'm laughing. I have to tell you guys which one of these I'm going to choose. God damn it. Let's see. The Mad Bummer. A madman comes and threatens to explode several bombs in a crowded area. Okay? Now, this man was apprehended. Boom. Thanks to the fine work of Jack Bauer and obviously moi, Michael Israel, both kicking ass at the same damn time. Now, unfortunately, despite Jack and I catching this motherfucker and beating him to death, Actually, before we beat him to death, he stated he has already planted bombs and they're all scheduled to go off in a short time. Now, it is possible that hundreds of thousands of people, especially children, because he did it in a lot of schools and orphanages, because he's that kind of villain. He's an asshole. He's probably a Republican. No, I'm kidding. So, it is possible that hundreds of thousands of people are going to die, okay? Now, the authorities in general cannot make him, divulge the location of the bombs by any conventional method. He refuses to say anything and requests his lawyers to protect his, his rights against self-incrimination or whatever. So in exasperation, some high-level officials suggest torture. This will be illegal, of course, but the official thinks that it's nevertheless the right thing to do in this desperate situation. Would you agree? Do you think it would be morally justifiable to torture this mad bomber? If that is the only way to get him to talk. Would you? Okay. No, that's an easy one. Alright, probably just take that one. Yeah, okay. I'll tell you guys that one. I have another one for you. This is the last one. This is a bit more complex. So pay attention. This is called lifeboat. This is popular. You can do your research on it. So you are on a cruise. 2 days into the cruise, your ship experiences technical difficulties, and the captain says, "Dudes, we gotta stop." A couple of hours later, the captain makes another announcement and says, "Guys, the hulls have been breached. Water is coming into the ship. We're all gonna die. Every man for himself. Fuck women and children." So everybody goes batshit crazy. The ship life rafts are lowered. Everyone jumps in, grabs one, and it's 10 people a pop. Okay. Now, as all the ships go, you're obviously the slowest motherfucker because you're high in your room instead of you to be paying attention. You sober up, you run down, you see a boat, last one going out, or so you think. Now there are 10 people in this boat. Okay. Now, before you hit the water, you realize, oh, damn it. There is a hole in this boat. A big ass hole on the side of the boat. Okay? And when it hits the water, it will begin to sink because there are 10 people on the boat. And there's a hole in it. But luckily, thanks to having a brain, millions of years of evolution, we have found ways of thinking. So we perform some arithmetic, some mathematical magic, and then we figured out that we can still manage a boat, okay, but we're going to have 9 people working for 10 minutes straight, okay? 9 people working for 10 minutes straight while one person rests, okay? Now, that person who is resting is actually not just resting, he's bailing the water out with his hands quickly. Okay, so he's doing it quickly enough to to keep the water at bay, preventing it from sinking. Okay, but you have to continuously keep it up. You have to ensure that the boat does not sink. While those 9 are pumping up water, obviously, one person rests. You can bail the water out with your hands. Okay, very important. Now, you do your calculation and realize by being able to rest one person, okay, you are greatly able to increase the length of time you can keep the boat afloat. However, if the rescue team does not turn up, you calculate that you have 5 hours or within 5 hours for that boat to sink and you will all die, okay? So, you've done the calculation, 10 people in the boat, 9 constantly shuffling water out. You're doing your calculation. You keep one person to rest, and by keeping one person to rest, you're able to increase the length of time you can keep the boat afloat. Okay? Now, while you take your break, imagine you're taking your break, you're relaxing, you're finished doing a lot of work, you're chilling. You glance over to your right and you notice your friend in another boat, and he notices that a friend of yours he notices a friend of his is in a predicament, and he obviously loves you, like all my friends love me. And he beckons to me. He says, Michael, why don't you swim on over to us and, save yourself. But of course, nice guy, I estimate that if I jump off this ship, okay, I will force all the 9 remaining crews to continuously bail water with your hands, which will reduce the total time that they can stay afloat to just 2 hours, okay? But it will ensure that you are safe. Because if you stay on board, you will never have another chance to jump ship because that ship is going. They jump out of that boat to another boat, okay? The tides will take it away. And there are no guarantees that the rescue is actually going to come in 5 hours. Meaning if you drown where you are, yeah. But then again, if you stay and help them bail water out of the ship, out of your small, out of your small lifeboat, you might hit that 5 hours and see if the rescue come, and the rescue could come. But if you jump out, those guys will manage 2 hours tops. Now you have 30 seconds to make your decision. Will you stay on the current boat, help keep it afloat as long as possible, and hope that the rescue comes in 5 hours? Or do you jump out to your friend's boat, my beautiful friend's boat, ensuring your rescue and reducing the chances of the others on the other boats being rescued? That's a good one, right? See, moral dilemmas they're omnipresent. Situations are they're everywhere, from acutely real dilemmas to false pseudo dilemmas. All these challenges that decision makers should be prepared for. And we have created methods, and there are methods, I believe, if you apply a little bit of rational and logic, there are methods. Moral dilemmas have, they've had quite a profound influence on conduct and decision makings, especially when it comes to character building. It tests your moral symbols, and it can serve to activate your moral considerations about what is really right and what is really wrong. So always take care in developing your moral stances and try to be as devoid of false information and hatred and just incorrect data. Moral dilemmas are actually very serious. It's a very complex discipline. Its merits, its impact on human morality, ethics, self-reflection. It has complex theories and skeptical rebuttals, even against its actual existence as a whole. For thousands of years we have pondered on this. I cannot encapsulate all of that into one podcast alone. That's besides, you motherfuckers ain't ready to listen to me go on about the principles of deontic consistency now, are ya? Nah. Or you want to listen to me drone on the final details of the works of Thomas Hale Jr.? I don't think so. But, still, it's something interesting to ponder on, to think deeper on. Are there ways to circumvent or to be prepared? Tackle moral dilemmas, apply some rationale, we could say. Yeah, the actual ways, how about this? first of all, when you're met with a moral dilemma, let's look at it if we want to apply strict rationale to it, we could say, to tackle moral dilemmas, we have to A, identify the relevant moral factors and reasons. B, gather all available facts that are pertinent to the moral factors. And then 3, you rank the moral considerations in order of significance as they apply to the situation. Sounds simple enough, eh? But it's not that simple. Especially when you have deep personal stakes in it. Imagine your daughter, your son, your wife, your mother, your concubine, or me, or your pet iguana, with 3 legs because your dog bit off one of the legs. Bobby is such an annoying dog. But what if it affects your community? What if it's a choice between a group you have a cultural bias against, a prejudice, or you're antagonistic against? Will it affect your decision? Is it an easy decision? I don't think so. This is one of those quandaries that leave footprints where they walk. In our deeply held notions, our beliefs, our ideas, they seem to also be applicable and disruptive, I dare say, to many systems of beliefs. Moral dilemma ain't no joke. But seriously, apply them into deeply held beliefs and see what they do to it. For example, just think of applying moral dilemmas to the notion of cosmic judgment or karma. Interesting, eh? What do you think?